Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman, and this afternoon we have with us Chris Gorman from Abrams Fensterman. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jonathan, how you doing?
Excellent, excellent. So just to keep with the theme, I know it's in the afternoon here, but what's your favorite beverage of choice to get you started in the morning?
As there's only one, it's coffee. It's got to be pretty strong, and there's probably going to be a couple cups of it, to be honest, throughout the day.
Good.
I try to mix in some water, but some days I do better than others.
Yeah, I understand. We need the octane to get ourselves going here. I agree. I'm usually good for 3 before noon, and then I cut it off.
I go into the afternoon. I have about 3 too, but I'm drinking it until about 4 o'clock, which sometimes it'll keep you up at night. But
yeah, for sure.
But it's what you need.
And you guys are back. Obviously you're in your office, but is the firm back in the office full time now?
Yeah, so we are, and we have been for some time. What we've kind of, I'll say, been forced to do is incorporate a little bit of remote work. So what we do is we have 4 days in the office for the attorneys and 1 day out of the office.
Okay.
And that's really done to, accommodate people's schedules. Quite frankly, we lost some people who said, I can go someplace else and not work as many days in the office. So, us, like everybody else, is really trying to figure out what the best thing is going forward. But right now we have a pretty much in-office policy.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Maybe we can dig into that a little bit, because you're right. The world is definitely shifting, and people are literally just taking stands saying, I'm not going into the office.
Yeah, we're very collaborative amongst the attorneys here. If you walk around, you're going to see people popping in and out of people's offices, asking questions. So we really do work together. So we value that collaboration.
Yeah.
At the same time, when your peer firms are saying, you don't have to come here, and that's appealing to certain people, you got to keep up with the Joneses a little bit and work some flexibility into the arrangement.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I was watching this morning CNBC, and that it was one of the companies was talking, like they were talking about whatever is Gen Z, I don't even know all the different categories,
Sure.
But the younger employees going in, they were actually asking, can we go into the office? Right? Like people, I think people, I don't think they want to go in all the time, but I think people do want to be in the office with other people.
I think that's 100% correct. I think people need it. And I think particularly in a place like New York, the younger employee, sometimes that's their social, their social arena. And so you didn't move to New York to sit in your apartment and work remotely. You moved to New York to go to work, go out for drinks with people after work, develop connections that way. So it's definitely difficult to read given what all the different things that firms are doing. But there's always going to be some kind of in-office component if you're going to have an organization with an identity and people collaborating and culture, exactly like you said.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Anyway, just to sort of segue a little bit, let's talk about the kind of work you do and what kind of law you practice.
Sure. So I started out as a general commercial litigator, really handling all types of commercial and business disputes. And over time, I've been lucky enough that, my clients have really pushed me into the real estate and construction industries. So we handle all manner of real estate litigation, construction litigation, and I head the department at the firm that oversees that work.
Okay, so interesting. So talk more about that. Like, you're representing developers. What? Tell me, to be more specific about what kind of work you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So in the real estate world, we represent owners, we represent developers, we represent borrowers, we represent individuals, we represent companies, and it's really a wide array of litigation. I handle a lot of mortgage foreclosure litigation.
Okay.
Handle a lot of partnership disputes between entities that own real estate. You name it, we've kind of done it in that space, whether it be landlord tenant, we've done takings cases. It's really just easement disputes, land use disputes, whatever touches on real estate that people can sometimes have disagreements about. We've generally speaking been involved in it at one point or another.
Okay.
On the construction side, it's probably we represent both owners and contractors. It's probably a little bit more contractor focused, just given the nature of the client base. So that involves, mainly lien foreclosures, proceedings to collect amounts outstanding for work done on construction contracts, defending against claims of defective construction work. In a nutshell, in the construction world, that's where we're
Okay.
focused.
Interesting. I'm sure you don't know this, but I spent a lot of years in the real estate business, and I worked for a big Canadian bank where I was in the real estate finance group, and then I worked for a big pension fund advisor and managed institutional real estate. So I know a good bit about real estate and some of the contract work that goes along. Did you represent lenders as well?
So in the foreclosure world, we've represented both lenders and borrowers.
Okay.
That's a long story.
Yeah.
Probably not for this format. I'm happy to come back and talk about it another time.
Sure.
Really, it breaks down in the commercial world. We represent a lot more lenders than borrowers, and we actually represent a lot of residential borrowers in foreclosure cases pending here in New York, and have been doing that, for more than a decade at this point.
Got it. Yeah. No, we used to use in Boston, Goodwin Proctor was.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, the good thing about the foreclosure, look, for a long time, the big law firms were not involved in doing foreclosure work. They've, over the past, basically since the financial crisis, become a lot more involved in that space. But, price point wise, it's very difficult for them to do that. Normally they have to, really give up on rates, and we're very competitive. We know as much as anybody in that space, and we're very competitive on rates.
Got it. So how did you get into this? I mean, you said you got pulled into this from commercial litigation, but I mean, how did you even get into the law? Like, what got you into the law practice?
As a youth, I wasn't particularly good at math and science, and I was particularly good at the reading, writing, and the analytical parts of school. Started out with a pretty heavy interest in politics. If you look at politicians, they're, many of them are lawyers, and over time, after law school, started practicing, and definitely made the right choice. I'm very happy with what I do. I'm very happy working with my clients, very happy with the nature of the work that I do.
Oh, good.
But so basically it was by process of elimination.
Got it. Where are you from? Are you a New York guy?
I am. I'm originally from a town on Long Island called Sayville, which is about, it's in Suffolk County, about 45 minutes or so away from the Hamptons. And I currently reside in Garden City in Nassau County, a little bit closer to the city.
Got it. Very good. No, I know that area pretty well. Interesting. So when you say litigation, give me examples of the type of litigation that you're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, litigation, when you're a litigator, it's a little bit of a misnomer, right? Because sometimes you get retained as, quote unquote, litigation counsel, but your task is very clear to try to resolve something for a client, as soon as possible, or in a certain way, or with a certain business arrangement. So, look, we're very comfortable at every stage of a litigation, from commencing it through discovery, through trial, through appeals, and have been involved in jury trials, bench trials, have been involved in every aspect of that. But, being a litigator is a little bit odd in the sense that you spend most of your time talking to your clients about, one, how to avoid litigation costs and how to avoid, certain, whether it be litigation entirely or certain pitfalls that come with litigation. So whereas most people spend their days, selling themselves and what they do, you really spend a lot of your day talking people out of doing certain things and taking certain actions, because in the long run, it's either going to save them money or save them angst and heartache. So it's certainly, like I said, a litigator, but it's a bit of a misnomer that all we do is litigate.
You're on the plaintiff and defense side, both sides, you think?
We're on both sides. We're on both sides. Very comfortable being on both sides. When I started out, I was at a big law firm. I was at Cahill Gordon, and at a place like that, all you do mainly is defend cases. But over time, I'd say it's definitely a little bit more defense focused, but we have, a large number of cases where we're on the plaintiff side as well.
Okay, interesting. So give me an example, like, you said jury trials, like give me an example of a case that was in a jury trial.
Yeah, sure. So the end of 2019, I had a case, went to trial in Queens County Supreme Court. My client was developing a hotel and got sued by an asbestos abatement contractor for monies that were claimed to be due and owing. And we counterclaimed. We claimed they didn't do a very good job. We claimed that they actually owed us money. And the case went before a jury in Queens County Supreme Court, and it was a zero liability verdict for my client, the hotel developer.
So you were on the defense on that side.
In that case, we were on the defense, but we were also on the offense in the sense that we had counterclaims that were as substantial or even more substantial than the claims that were being asserted against our client.
And did you prevail on the counterclaims?
We didn't. And it's funny, so it was a zero liability verdict. It's one of the classic examples of, I think, a jury just kind of throwing up its hands and saying, we don't think you're particularly good. We don't think you're particularly good. So nobody's getting anything, which is, if you're the defendant in most cases, is a big win. And it's one of the things, coming back to what I had said earlier, why we're constantly counseling our clients. You can't predict what's going to happen here. You're going to spend years litigating this. You're going to spend a lot of money on it. And when you get to a jury trial, you're going to be staring at 8 strangers who may not understand, may not care, may not be willing to dig in the way that you need them to dig in on some of the complex issues that we deal with.
Which is why most cases don't go to trial, right?
And that is why most cases don't go to trial, because there is, as we always tell our clients, there's inherent uncertainty in what we do. And whether it's a jury making a decision or a judge making a decision, when the judge is making the decision, maybe you can predict a little bit better, but judges are unpredictable too. They're not as unpredictable as juries, but they're unpredictable too. So, at the end of the day, we spend time, money, effort, great deal of effort, working these cases up, and then they go in the hands of a third party who, you can't begin to predict how they're going to deal with your particular situation.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I got called for jury duty in a couple of weeks, so we'll see what happens there. But how do you prepare? I mean, do you do focus groups? Do you mock trials? How do you prepare when you go into the courtroom?
For me, my cases are, I don't do any of the things that you just described. I mean, at this point, I kind of rely on what I know and my ability to relate to people, to figure out a jury or figure out a judge and pitch things in a way that, are, within my ethical duties to factually state the facts.
Yeah.
But, so my cases are very document intensive. So when I'm preparing for depositions, trials, I'm up to my elbows in documents. I'm reviewing them, I'm analyzing them, I'm thinking about how each piece of evidence fits in with the overall picture. And when you're dealing with a trial, you're thinking more about, how do I get these documents into evidence? Or how do I stop the other side from getting these documents into evidence? So it is really more of a document intensive process. But that document intensive process, at the end of the day, whatever side you're on, you're telling a story.
Correct.
And you're telling a story either to a judge or to a jury or to whomever. So it's the ability to synthesize that information, know it so well that you can explain it in a way that virtually anybody can understand it.
But that's my point. Document intensive, at the end of the day, is a story. So how do you know what to say so you're going to influence either the judge or the jury in a way that you want them to? How do you make that determination? How do you gauge what's going to be effective or not effective?
Sure. If you do what I do, you spend a lot of time on the facts, right? Developing the facts, knowing the facts, but all of that comes within the contours of the law. So you need to know how to articulate your case in a way that legally, based upon whether it be case law or statutes or what have you, you're telling a story that, if it is to be believed by the fact finder, the law supports giving your clients relief. So it's that combination. Now, look, like I said earlier, at the end of the day, if you go to a jury trial, the judge charges the jury on the law. And if you look at a judge charging a jury on the law, a lot of times you can see them nodding off, you can see their eyes glazing over. And that really is the most important part of the trial, or one of the most important parts, because it's how you tie the facts to the decisions that they have to make. So again, it's knowing your facts, knowing how they fit within the legal theories available to you. But it's, in a lot of ways, not that much different than your ordinary salesperson, in that you are selling people on a set of facts and the law that gets you to the result that you want for your clients. Again, always within the ethical bounds of telling the truth and stating things the way that they are. But those are the constraints that we operate under.
Yeah, no, I'm brushing a little bit for a reason, but just because, we're a legal tech company, and I'm just curious to know, because as the world evolves and there's more science and AI and things, you have tools that can actually help you support your experience, your instincts, right? Because, as you said, particularly in a jury trial, or even if you're just preparing in the event that it goes to trial, you got to anticipate the way humans are going to respond to something, which may be different than what you think, right? Because they don't have the same knowledge that you have.
100% true.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why some people do the things that you describe in terms of mock juries. The reality is that with our client base, given the types of cases that we have, mock jury could run $50,000, $100,000, and that's not always what clients are willing to spend when they're spending a lot of money on other things. That being said, what that forces the attorney to do is really think on your feet. And you have to look at the jury. If the jury is not going with you when you're going down a path, you have to pretty quickly be able to shift.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you do that mock jury in advance, there's no guarantee, but maybe you'll get a sense, this is going to play better, this isn't going to play as well.
Right.
But when you're in court doing the play on stage for the first time, and you're looking at the audience and they're not they're not going with you where you want to go, you need to be able to shift, pretty quickly.
Got it. So I'm sure that's taking you some time to figure that out. I mean, from the first time you ever went into a courtroom, I'm sure you've improved. And
Yeah, look, the first time you go into a courtroom or the first time you argue a case on appeal, your heart is beating out of your chest.
yeah,
it's pretty nerve-wracking. The second time's a little bit better. The third time's a little bit better. And eventually, you're never completely comfortable in that environment, because there are things that come along. There's a question that a judge asks you that throws you off your game or what have you. But you do get more comfortable in that setting.
yeah. No, listen, it's a tough job. I like your analogy to selling, because I think you're right. As a professional salesperson, most of my life, it's true. It's in a lot of ways very similar, right? You've got to communicate in a way that the other side's going to understand, right?
Yeah, and when that other side is a jury, you have to communicate. There's a lot of great lawyers out there who, unless you're a lawyer, when you talk to them, you have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
And they're I had I understand them because I'm a lawyer, but they're not explaining it in a way that the common person can understand it. And they're really good at what they do.
Sure.
They just don't have the ability to relate to a client or a jury, because they're unable to put it in terms that a client or a jury can understand, particularly the client isn't a lawyer.
You know what, you can say that for almost every business on the planet. They especially very technical products, like translating that into terms that people can get their head around is always a challenge. So whether you're a lawyer or just in business, you're right, that making that translation is really critical to be successful.
Yeah, and the thing that law school, it doesn't teach you any of those things.
Yeah,
it
right.
teaches you how to read a case, how to analyze it, how to apply it to facts. But unless you have the ability to read your audience and figure out a way to relate to them, it can be challenging, and that's incredibly challenging. And not to say I'm batting 1,000 in that regard either. Sometimes you come out of something and you say, you know what, I may have misread that situation. Maybe we should have done this or that. But that's how you learn, and that's how you get better at what you do.
Do you have any great mentors along the way that have helped? And do you think that's important?
I've been at a few different places. I've had people who have taken great and keen interest in me developing as a lawyer, which I very much appreciate. But what I've really done along the way is take a little bit from each of them and incorporate into it being me. At the end of the day, I got to be me, right? And if I'm not me, people will see through that. But there are certainly things along the way that I've taken from people I've worked with, whether it be a writing style or communicating with clients or anything that we do, that I've said, you know what, I can do that too in my own way, and incorporate that into one, what I do. But in terms of a single mentor, not really. But I have been blessed to work with a lot of really good lawyers along the way.
Excellent. Is the firm, how much do you guys use technology? What's your view on using technology in the practice?
When we sat down, we had one of my IT guys here, and I tell anybody who will listen, the guys who work in our IT department they're the best people we have working for us, and it's become integral to everything that we do. Now, before COVID, it was always electronic storage of information, documents, data. And they were amazing at that before. And now it's this. It's communicating with people who are thousands of miles away from you. And it's become, it was always important, but it's had really enhanced value over the past few years. I'll give you a very quick example. In mid-2020, June, July of 2020, we did a 10-day AAA arbitration hearing that was conducted by Zoom,
Wow.
entirely by Zoom.
Yeah.
I had my witnesses with me, my clients with me, but the hearing was conducted via Zoom. And 2 months earlier, I had never heard of what Zoom was.
Right.
And so on that case, I had an associate working with me who really knew the documents and was able to share them and figure out the technology. But our IT folks were with us every step of the way on that to deal with it. And now, I'm not sure how many hearings are going to be, actual trials are going to be done over Zoom and Microsoft Teams, but certainly court appearances and depositions are being done virtually. So that technology has taken on really enhanced importance to what I do.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, COVID really sort of fast forwarded a lot of the adoption of these things, and the people are going to stay with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the judges have found them more efficient. Quite frankly, it's more efficient for the attorneys and parties. I mean, if I have to take a deposition of somebody in Florida, I don't have to go there anymore. I mean,
Right.
we can do it with me being in my office and them being in their, pajamas at home, and lose very little of what you get from
Right.
being in person, at least in that realm.
Yes.
I don't think you lose much.
Right. No, I agree. Okay, excellent. Well, good. This has been excellent. Is there anything else you want people to know about you, and what's the best way to get in touch with you if you want to learn more about your practice?
Sure. So our website, www.abramslaw.com. We have 5 or 6 offices here in New York, from upstate New York to downstate New York, and we're a full service law firm. And the best thing for me being where I am is I'm just a client focused lawyer. I'm focused on attaining the client's ends, by whatever means I can. And we share, there's more than 100 lawyers at this firm who share the same mindset.
Excellent.
So it's pretty cool to come to work every day with people who are interested in helping clients the same way I am, and interested in helping grow the firm, day in and day out.
Good stuff. All right. Well, listen, thank you, Chris. It was good to spend some time with you. We've been with Chris Gorman from Abrams Fensterman in New York. And this show is sponsored by EmotionTrac. As I mentioned, we're a legal tech company, and we help litigators do case prep through collecting hidden insights with our platform they use for trials and mediation. Thanks again, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you.